Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those within the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Insights. Today we're talking about a new study about the acidity levels in the Great Lakes. Joining me right now is Stephanie Gondula from the National Marine Sanctuary. Stephanie, thanks for joining us again.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, what can you tell us about this study? What are we trying to figure out here?
Well, we're really excited to be partnering with our NOAA colleagues closely on this project. NOAA's Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab down in Ann Arbor. They have scientists who do work all over the Great Lakes. This work will be focused this first year of the project in Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, so the 4,300 square miles off of Northeast Michigan out here in Lake Huron. And what we're looking at is how warming temperatures are affecting the level of acidification in the lake itself.
Yeah, has it been pretty alarming to see those levels going up?
Well, that's the question right there, Kevin, because there has not really been a specifically targeted baseline study done on acidification here in the Great Lakes, and particularly here in the sanctuary. So this is a great opportunity to focus in on that and look. I mean, there's lots of data happening out there, lots of data being collected, and scientific research projects. And this one will focus specifically on acidification. We definitely know that temperatures are warming. We know that the trends are going to be more acidification in the lake, but we also want to understand what that means, not just for the ecosystem, but possibly for the cultural resources, those shipwrecks that we're here to protect.
Understood. And yeah, obviously NOAA is going to be doing this study. So how many other people are going to be involved in this?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think that's one of the really special features of this particular project that we're undertaking. So it's funded by NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program, and they're very keen to get some studies happening in sanctuaries in the Great Lakes. And what's exciting is we're going to be able to involve many different people, of course, scientists and the researchers and the samplers, but also we have a University of Michigan Sea Grant intern who's going to be helping lead the sampling this summer. And she's going to be leading it aboard the glass bottom boat, Lady Michigan. So when you ask who's going to be involved, really anybody and everybody is our goal. We really want the public, the people, students, people visiting from all over to have a hand in understanding what's happening out here in the water.
Beautiful. So yeah, rising temperatures causing more acidity. What kind of problems would that cause?
Well, that's what we're gonna take a look at. I know you'll be talking with Dr. Reagan Herrera here as a part of the Insights program, and she'll give a better insight into that. What I'd like to I think focus on is how the sampling will indeed take place. Like I mentioned, it'll be on the glass bottom boat, and so public can come out and take part in the sampling. It's pretty simple. There's a pump that goes into the water, gathering samples, water samples at different depths. And then there will be classroom cruises. This is, I mentioned, a 2-year project. So we'll have classroom cruises going out where the students are not acting as scientists. The students will be part of the scientific process, collecting these samples on the NOAA vessels, also on the glass bottom boat, taking the data back to their classroom and making sure that this data is available in a reasonable time scale to the public online.
Gotcha. And last time we talked about the Viking Expeditions Octantis research going on in the cruise ship, and now this study. So tell me about just how cool it is to have all this research going on.
Well, that's our goal as a marine sanctuary, managing this marine protected area here, this very special ecosystem right in the middle of the Great Lakes. That's what we want. We want it to be a center for science and a center for research. Of course, research about the fascinating historical shipwrecks that we have, but all kinds of research, interdisciplinary research. And I think this summer we're really seeing that happen.
Is there any other studies that we should be looking forward to?
You bet. Stay tuned. Maybe we'll do another Insights program. We definitely have some exciting projects coming up. Of course, the Middle Island sinkhole always has scientists visiting. For the, at least the last 10 years, we've been facilitating biological and chemical research there. So stay tuned for more information on the sinkhole and more to come for sure.
Stephanie, you mentioned that people will be able to check things out on the glass bottom boat, but what other ways are going to be available for them to examine this current study?
Well, we're going to be talking about it all summer long, and then also next field season, and it will also the results of the study will be available in a couple of public programs at the Marine Sanctuary. We're pretty well known for our interesting and informative lecture series, so stay tuned this fall or winter for Dr. Reagan Herrera to come and share her research on acidification, not just in the Great Lakes, but in the Gulf of Mexico and other places. So stay tuned for lectures, stay tuned for exhibit presence, and of course, social media will be posting when they're sampling real time. And so I think it's going to be a really neat project to keep up with, that the public can stay tuned.
Beautiful. And you mentioned earlier that this acidification study is sort of like one of a kind in our area, never really been done before. Can you tell us about the significance of that?
Yeah, it's really neat to be at the forefront of gathering some baseline data, and what better place but a marine sanctuary. And if all goes well with the sampling this season, we plan to expand to the second freshwater national marine sanctuary, the Wisconsin Shipwreck Coast, over in Lake Michigan, to start sampling over there and create a baseline for Lake Michigan. And so the future looks great for really starting an important and necessary study right here off the shores of Alpena, but then that's going to just expand to the Great Lakes.
Beautiful. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much, as always, for hopping on and just giving us a little better idea of what's going on with the sanctuary and NOAA as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be here.
Thanks again, Stephanie. And as she mentioned, we'll be talking to one of these lead scientists about this study and getting a little better idea of what's going to be done. So catch us right after the break.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining me now is Dr. Reagan Herrera. She is a marine ecologist with NOAA, and we're actually standing right outside the research vessel, the Storm. So, Dr. Reagan, thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, and so we were just talking to Stephanie.
Yes.
She's talking that this research about the acidity in the lakes is pretty much the first of its kind. What can you tell me about the significance of this study?
Sure. So as CO2 rises in the atmosphere, our oceans, as well as our large lakes, such as the Great Lakes, are the major sinks. So that CO2 goes into the water column, and then it breaks down into other chemical components, such as bicarbonate and carbonate. And as that happens, it actually makes the water more acidic. And we're seeing this in the ocean. In Aloha, or Station Aloha in Hawaii, has seen a decrease of about 0.01 acidity per year over the last roughly about 30 years. And in other large lakes, we've seen the same thing. However, in the Great Lakes, we haven't been really looking at this at all. We know that it most likely is a problem, so this particular study is the first where we have a sensor system set up there that will be hopefully long-lasting, that we can get a true understanding of how the acidity is changing within the system itself.
Excellent. So with the rise in acidity, is that a cause for alarm at all, or what kind of problems does that bring?
Right, so it has different problems depending on what you're looking at. So I'm a biologist and an ecologist, so I'm really interested in how the organisms are reacting to it. They're used to being at a certain acid or pH level, and as it decreases, or the pH actually will go down, we see that certain organisms can't function like they normally do. Fish have calcium carbonate in their ear bones. As the acidity goes up, that can cause problems for them. shellfish in particularly, not really lots of them here, but we have lots of mussels, so that can be an issue for mussel and mussel development. Snails, things along those lines, as well as other organisms. So I particularly am interested in phytoplankton. So phytoplankton need lots of things in order to grow. Just like land plants, they use CO2 to photosynthesize. So the more CO2 that's in the water, the better they can photosynthesize, which can lead to different aspects. And that acidity is leading to higher CO2.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Oh, no, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And we actually just caught you after you just were out there doing some of the study on a vessel. So tell us about what you're out there actually doing.
Yep, so I mentioned the sensors. These are on the NOAA weather buoy that's out within Thunder Bay. And so both of those sensors are oceanic sensors. They can reach levels with the freshwater. So the big difference is the salt. So these sensors are used to being in salt, but we don't have really salt in our waters. So one of the things that we have to do is verify that they're reading correctly. So the gold standard for looking at dissolved inorganic carbon, which is really what we're looking at when we're talking about acidity, is to take water samples. And it's nothing really special. It's basically we have to make sure that the water doesn't have any air in it because we want to see what the gases are dissolved in that water. So we just go out there and we pump water into bottles. We're using a slightly special pump and then take it back, and I do some analysis back at my lab in Ann Arbor.
Gotcha. Can you go, so are you heading to Ann Arbor today then?
I am.
Gotcha. Can you give us a little better idea of what that analysis looks like and what you're looking for?
Sure. So within the inorganic carbonate system, you have to take at least 2 of the parameters in order to then determine the overall system. So one of the items that I'm going to be measuring is total alkalinity, which is the buffering capacity of the water, or the amount of ions that are in that water. So that I do through a titration process where I actually take an acid and see how much acid it can take. And then from there I can do a nice little equation, thank you computers, to figure out what the total alkalinity is. So that's one of the parameters we'll be taking. And the other one is dissolved inorganic carbon. So that gas that's actually trapped within, and the bicarbonate and the carbonate I'm going to be measuring with something that is called a total organic carbon instrument, which again kind of does a titration and acidifies the water. And then from there, a laser, an IR instrument, kind of reads how many carbon dioxide molecules pass through. And that gives me how much is in the water itself.
Okay, so a lot of chemistry.
It is a lot of chemistry.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, so how often are you going out on the boat? So obviously you're going back to Ann Arbor today.
Yes.
So when's the next time you're going to be out here?
So this is where the collaboration with the sanctuary is wonderful. So they go out pretty often out on the Lady Michigan. Every time they go out, they're going to be collecting samples for me. Anytime they go out to any of the wreck sites or whatnot, they're going to collect samples. And this is a great way that I don't need it exactly where the buoy is located, but in the general area to get a sense of what the carbonate chemistry is. So it's kind of like a ship of opportunity in a way where I'm taking advantage of their going out and doing their normal science and their normal operations to then get one more sample so that I can make sure that everything's functional and whatnot.
Yeah, lots of teamwork going on. Yes. Tell us just how important it is that we have the sanctuary here to do a lot of this research and just collaborating with you, and just tell me about the significance of that.
Right, the sanctuary, again, a national treasure, right? Going out there and preserving some of our heritage sites, which is a wonderful aspect for everyone within this community, but beyond, because they can get out here and actually see what's going on within the ecosystem. And the beauty for us then, because we're just another different node of NOAA, all working together for the same purposes, is that we're all working towards understanding the ecosystem better so that we can let our stakeholders know what's going on within the system. So collaborations, because they're here and we're kind of down 4 hours of drive, we can then work together to kind of spread out our availability to get those types of measurements and whatnot. So that always works out wonderfully. And we get to connect to people more. So again, I'm at the Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory in Ann Arbor. It's a little bit difficult for me to get up here and kind of talk about the science, but Stephanie and her crew are here all the time talking about the science and connecting with people and letting people know what's going on out in the ecosystem.
What are we looking? Is there anything specific you're hoping to find in this study at all? Some good news or bad news, or?
I don't know if good or bad is a good way to put it, but just news at all. Like I mentioned, because this is the first of its kind within the Great Lakes in general, we're really getting the first snapshot. In the oceanic systems, we've been looking at it for a very long time. We haven't yet in the Great Lakes, so that's important. But we also hope that this is a pilot study for the other sanctuaries, so the new one in Wisconsin, and any other sanctuaries that are established, that we can use these types of sensors within that area, as well as start to build that across the Great Lakes, so sensors for that, for CO2 and the inorganic carbonate chemistry. And that will hopefully allow us to be able to actually inform some of our forecasts better. So right now it's kind of blanketed in a lot of our models and our understanding of how systems move across the Great Lakes and what they're taking up and what they're giving in. And this kind of data can now actually provide that missing data that they've had. So that's some of the bonuses. And on top of that, we hope this also leads to looking at how acidification might affect some of the shipwrecks. So acidification is going to break down wood, it's going to break down metals, and we want to be able to then tie that back into these heritage sites.
Excellent. All right. Dr. Reagan Herrera, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a safe trip to Ann Arbor. And don't go away, because we'll be talking more about this study on the acidity in our waters when we come back.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining me now is Cassidy Beach. She is a Sea Grant intern and an undergraduate from the University of Michigan. Cassidy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you just joined up with this study, the acidity in the water and all that, just recently. So tell me how that got started and how it's been going.
Yeah, so I actually grew up here, and I always wanted to get involved in the NOAA Center. So I went to the University of Michigan, and I got involved with the Michigan Sea Grant internship, which brought me back here to work for the next 2 months on acidification research.
Beautiful. So what does that entail? I know you were out there today, so what was going on there?
Yeah, so we're basically taking samples at depth, our dive team is, and then I'm kind of in charge of the surface sampling using this special pump that we call the peristaltic pump. And we're basically just looking at the carbon and the alkalinity of the water just to test how much acidification is occurring in the Great Lakes, because there really isn't much research done on it so far. So that's kind of my role in the whole research. And then we have Dr. Herrera down in Ann Arbor, who's going to be looking at all of our samples, sorting through it, and kind of putting all the data together.
Excellent. So what's it been like learning under her so far and taking all the information in?
Yeah, Dr. Herrera and Stephanie have both been great mentors so far. Even just on the boat today was an amazing experience. I've never used really all the equipment that they had, so it's been really cool learning about all of that stuff, and then also just how the chemistry and everything works behind freshwater acidification.
Beautiful. You said surface sampling. Can you run me through that process?
Yeah, so the divers go up to like 30 feet, I'm pretty sure. And so I'm going to be on the Lady Michigan glass bottom boat, and we are just using this special pump on board, and we're basically just using a tube and putting it 1 meter down, and it just pumps all the water into a little vial, and then we send that vial off to Dr. Herrera to look at.
Gotcha. All right, so we wanted to talk about how the public can get involved and how they can find out about all the research you guys are doing. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so there is going to be a final write-up. This project is going to last about 2 years. So that'll be in the future. But right now we're doing a lot of boat tours, and we're trying to incorporate our freshwater acidification research onto the tour as well as with the shipwrecks. So I'm going to be taking a lot of samples right on the glass bottom boat tour, so the community can see me doing that and they can kind of get involved in that way. And then me and Stephanie have also planned to do a lot of classroom visits with both elementary and high school and junior high as well. So we just really want to incorporate the community and teach them about this very important project that's happening right here.
Beautiful. So are you going to be working at the sanctuary then?
Yeah, so I also am working there, just at the visitor center, kind of wherever they need me, but the research is my main focus.
Gotcha. And I'm sure many of the residents around here know all about the sanctuary, but can you tell us a little bit about how important it is in terms of getting all these studies together and making sure it's available to the public?
Yeah, so there is not really any freshwater acidification research done on the Great Lakes so far, and the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary is the only freshwater sanctuary. And the sanctuaries are basically just underwater national parks, so they're very important to preserve and to use to research our freshwaters and our oceans on. So this research is really important just because the climate change is an issue that's very hot right now and very important. So we're using our freshwater sanctuary to look more into that.
Beautiful. And obviously you said you're a local, so what was it like growing up with that nearby?
It was really great. I mean, it was kind of sucky that it was closed for the past 2 years, but it was awesome growing up here, going to the center, learning more about shipwrecks, and I've been on the glass bottom boat many times before, so that's always been nice. And I also took dive classes with Stephanie in the past, so that was really great too.
Excellent. So what is it like for you to, now you're going to the University of Michigan, and now you're an intern and doing all this study? What does that feel like?
I definitely have imposter syndrome. I cannot believe I'm doing all this. I've always wanted to work with NOAA ever since I knew it was a thing, basically. And yeah, it's just really crazy. When I was looking into internships, I knew I really wanted to come back home to work at NOAA, so it's really great.
Beautiful. All right, so acidification in the water. How concerned should people be about it? Obviously, there's some studies in the oceans, but not for our Great Lakes. So what's the big importance here?
So that's kind of what we're trying to test and see, because we really don't know how it is affecting the freshwater. We only really have research on the oceans, which we know is a dire issue right now. So that's why we're kind of gathering all this research to see how worried we should be for the freshwaters, but we're predicting that it will be soon to be a very big issue that we should be worried about.
But how do the oceans make their way in the Great Lakes, or how do they interact with each other?
Yeah, so basically just all the rivers and the other water systems, they all are interconnected. So a lot of things that happen in the ocean will happen in the Great Lakes just because of the river systems.
All right, so yeah, Cassidy, I think those are all my questions for you. Is there anything else you want to add about this very cool, very new study that is going on?
I would just like to say that the community will have a lot of opportunities to engage. There's going to be a social media campaign coming out. You can always come to the visitor center, ask any of us about the research. I'll be at the Discovery Cart most days of the week, which is right inside the Discovery Center, so you can ask me any questions you'd like, and yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Cassidy, thank you so much for hopping on. And I want to thank all of our guests for hopping on and giving us a better understanding about this new study going on in our waterways. That's all we have for you in this week's edition of Insights. Have a great day.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or story ideas, please email news@wbkb11.com. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.